Hey, everybody, and welcome to the You Don't Own Me podcast. My name is Juliana J., and I'm your host. And today we're talking about trust. And there's a couple aspects to trust. It's not as simple as I thought it was. For a long time, I thought trust had to do with me trusting other people or trusting that something is going to happen a certain way or giving it up to the universe and all of that. And while it is those things, it is also trust with yourself. One thing I recently figured out about myself. So I'm an abuse survivor. The first time I experienced sexual abuse was as a child by somebody who was very close to me. It was really scary. And when I tried to tell grown-ups about it, they told me not to say anything. And it was kind of I had somehow brought it on. And let me tell you that I was under 10 years old. So somehow it was my fault. I had brought it on. Don't tell anybody. It'll be too embarrassing to the family. And all those kinds of things. And so I did that. And I did things like I grew up kind of in the country, so I would hide in the fields sometimes late at night till my parents came home. And it was really scary to be out there because, there's coyotes and cougars and all kinds of wild animals out there. And I remember numerous times just hiding behind this rock so that I could see the driveway and I would know when my folks came home. But also I was far enough away from my house that I didn't have to worry about anything. The person who was watching us while my folks were gone. Anyway, my sister and I. So anyway, that was kind of the first time that happened to me. And then I was in a series of abusive relationships as in my 20s, just recreating that situation, I guess, for myself over and over again, and I also need to acknowledge that it's raining today. So you'll kind of hear the rain, which is sort of, I guess, calming for this challenging subject. So anyway, I went on to be in these abusive relationships and eventually got out of that cycle. And recently I was reflecting on that because it has clouded how I feel about guys, basically, and my lack of trust for them in general. And so I was kind of reflecting on that. I need to sort of tease that apart and decide if I want to keep any of that or what I would keep and what I would let go as far as my belief systems. And it really led me to this epiphany, which I wrote in my journal. I wrote in my journal this epiphany of not trusting people, not trusting others is essentially not trusting yourself. And that's really what it boiled down to for me. And that trusting in yourself, and I like to refer to it as the universe. Some people might call it God or the divine or something like that, or quantum physics, whatever it is for you. Kind of trusting in yourself, really. It all is, the universe is yourself. When you boil it down to its bones, I feel, for me. So my realization was that all this lack of trust I had for those people that were cruel to me, all the way up to people that were just in the general category that these people are in my mind, right? So all men, the first person that abused me this host of other people I got involved with that were also kind of abusive. This same person coming back again and again and again, and the fear and anxiety of interacting with them. But I knew that people expected me to interact with this person and act as though nothing had ever happened. And so it was really scary for me every time I came in contact with this person, which sort of reinforced my distrust of men in general. And then how could these grown-ups have allowed this to happen? There were men involved in that. So just my general distrust in them. And I realized it was really that I didn't trust myself. And I am not, let me be clear, saying that what these men did and what other people do that is similar to this is anyone's fault, the victims, the survivors' fault. No, not at all. These people need to own their actions. I have a hard time calling them actions. Sorry, I had to stop for a second to check on the door. Someone was at the door. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that these people, they need to own their crap. But that carrying it through your life in the form of fear is not helping you. And for me personally, it boiled down to, because of these things that happened in my childhood and young adulthood, I have formulated a distrust involving myself, in that I don't trust that I know a good person when I meet them, that I am not capable of saying no, that I am not able to be present. I'll disengage, that, and then who knows what's going to happen. That's a scary place to be when you're in a place of fear and then you disengage. You also kind of forfeit your ability to fight or get away from the situation, right? So that was kind of stuff I realized about myself, that it's really that I don't trust myself. These incidents are showing me that I can't make a good decision. I don't know how to get away. I don't know how to help myself. I don't know how to fix it. And therefore, I don't trust myself. I don't know how to heal from it. I don't know how to go beyond it. Why would you trust somebody who doesn't know how to do any of those things and just deer in the headlights it? I would just be like, oh, this happened. That guy's a complete jerk, fill in the blank. I was going to use something much stronger, but I feel like there's no word in the universe that I have ever heard that would fully describe what a abuser actually is. There's not a heinous enough word in my mind, but how am I ever going to stop that cycle if I don't trust my own self to stop it? And if I don't trust my own self, somewhere inside my mind, I've decided that if I can't even trust my own self, then I personally must be lesser, because I can't even trust myself to protect me, So therefore, I'm like a screw up, or I don't have capacity to keep even myself safe. So how can I help anyone else with anything else? And I must be dumb, and I must be weak, and I must be the sad pathetic person that I can't even protect myself. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm a grown woman, you know? And just kind of coming to that realization made me realize how much this lack of trust in self, all that other abuse aside, just the lack of trust in self has created all this self doubt that sort of stacks on top of this original, I can't trust myself to keep myself safe. Then I just will pile everything else onto it. Like, I can't trust that I'll actually know this, or I can't trust I'm going to go to this party and not say something stupid, or I can't trust what I look like, or I can't trust my feelings about literally everything else. Like, do I actually know if I like this or don't like this? Do I actually know how I feel about this? You know, it's that lack of insecurity. You get robbed from your security. I mean, lack of security, not insecurity. You get robbed of that. You get robbed of your security when you don't trust yourself. Um, and so I think that's where the work lies for some of us. I don't know. I can't speak for every survivor. I don't. Um, I only know my own experience. And my own experience is, maybe I'll never be evolved enough to fully forgive, but the others, the perpetrators, but I can forgive myself. I can, I mean, what in the world was an absolute child supposed to do in that situation? A child who's being raised um, that men are always right, you know, um, you can trust them, you know. I um, need to forgive that child for not being able to navigate that situation. And I need to forgive my young adult self for not being able to navigate those situations because I didn't have the proper tools. And society gives you a lot of grief about that, right? Like, when you are a survivor, people will say to you all the time, why don't you just leave that guy? Why didn't you leave him? Why are you still with that person? Why did you stay for 10 years after the first time he punched you in the face? What were you doing? And all that dialogue from the outer world just supports the belief inside yourself that you don't know what you're doing, so therefore you can't be trusted. Everywhere you go, that's what people say to you. Why did you stay? How come you're still there? Why didn't you turn these people in? Why didn't you press charges? Did it really happen if you're not going to press charges? Because, if you're not willing to go through the motions to press charges, put these people in jail, you know, people don't get that. Once you escape, the fear, the like terrorizing, crippling fear to then take someone to court is so incredibly powerful. And who are they going to believe? Because you've been conditioned your whole life that they don't believe the victim, they don't believe the woman, they're believing the perpetrator, they're believing the abuser first before. So you have to really prove that something happened to you, or else, no one's going to believe you. And that is a real challenge in itself, right? So much of the system reinforces that you can't be trusted, to yourself. It just reinforces that you're dumb, and that's not the case at all. And so I wanted to talk about that self-trust, and it's still something I'm working on or working with or trying to improve in myself. But trusting yourself, I think, starts with some real forgiveness and writing in your journal, or, saying out loud in the mirror, like, I forgive my 9-year-old self for, not knowing what to do in that situation. Um, and that really, that person did the best they could in the moment, you know, did the best you could, you know. So it starts with that. And I think even if you don't have something really grave like this that's happened in your life, you cannot trust yourself for so many other things, like imposter syndrome. I don't trust myself at work. I don't think I really know what I know. Someone's going to find out any day now and fire me. I don't trust my decision on where to go to dinner. I don't trust my decision on should I buy this top or this top, which one looks better on me. I don't trust the decision on what my hair should look like. I don't know what car to buy. All these types of um, inability to make decisions are worry about making the right or wrong decisions, like over worrying about it, really has an element of the fact that you don't trust yourself. And getting around that, I think, is or through that, not around it, but working on it, fixing it, changing it within yourself, I think is it's a lifelong lesson. I don't think you wake up one day and you extremely trust yourself on everything you do. I think it takes repattering in your brain, you know. It takes really doing some work to figure out, what don't I trust myself about? Do I know when I first started not trusting yourself? A lot of times it's really simple stuff like something happened in school. Maybe you got sick and you missed 2 weeks of school. And that was the time when they talked about fractions. And by the time you got back, that was over. And they never talked about fractions again until third grade. And you'd never heard of it. And you don't understand it. And to this day, you don't understand it and you don't know it. That creates something in your mind where you don't trust yourself because everyone passed you by in this knowledge base that you never got, and so you never felt confident in it because you missed the initial instruction, and the rest of your life you're horrible in math, and you don't trust yourself at any time you add anything together or do any kind of math whatsoever, and you just feel dumb, you know. So it can be little things like that, or you know you really worked hard on this drawing and you brought it to show to somebody and they made fun of it or they didn't care, something like that. And so it can develop a lack of trust in self, because you really don't have the tools, especially as a child, to go, well, they didn't really react to my painting like I wanted them to, but I know inside myself I'm good at this. I mean, even as a grown up, it's very hard to feel good at anything because there's so much criticism out there. There's just, people tend to criticize so much. Like, you have the self criticizing beliefs that you're gonna, I'm gonna look at this podcast later on and I'm gonna think to myself, oh my God, you stopped in the middle of this really dense topic to go check the door, but the door is right there behind that curtain. So if somebody did come in, they'd be on camera and then it would ruin the whole thing. So even though in my mind, I'm like, well, that's why I did it. I had to stop that. I didn't expect somebody, but I'm going to still self-criticize on that and everything else, like I'll find 1,000 things to self-criticize on before I post this video, And then there's the outside world criticizing you for whatever, because we've become, at least in the United States, very critical of everyone. If we're not competing with each other, we're criticizing each other, because that's a form of competition, really. Like, I'm better than you because I'm, criticizing you. Or, sometimes we're trying to understand something that's happening to us. And we do that through criticizing the other person who might be doing it to us. Correct. So you know, um, I think there's these elements we have to realize in ourselves. So for me, I journal those things. Like what might be the cause? I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself now, so I kind of know what the causes are for these things, but I'm sure there's 101 little tiny causes that just kind of added on to that. Oh, nobody trusted you here, but then nobody liked your painting, but then you're dyslexic. So you, we're always faking it in school. So therefore you're faking it everywhere. And you can't even write an email and spell every word correctly because you've never learned how to spell. And, you know, that painting you did in third grade was dumb, and whatever it is. One time you uh weren't the best driver, and so you're never a good driver ever again. Be afraid of your own driving. That's another thing I have, which is a whole nother um topic. But uh it's kind of figuring out what those things are. Maybe keep a journal or pen and paper by your bedside. And every time you think of something, or in your wallet or in your purse or at your desk, and every time you think of something that's part of a limiting notion about yourself or a distrust you have in yourself, write it down on the list. Like you might be at work and somebody wants your opinion on something and you don't feel confident giving opinion for whatever reason. Look at that. Is it because I don't trust myself to make the right decision? Or is it because I don't have enough information or some other source? But if it's because you don't trust yourself to make the decision, write it on your list. And, over time, you might have quite a few things on your list, but it really will end up, once you start analyzing everything down to one common denominator. And that is you don't trust yourself. So, once you've kind of gone through that work and you can look at these things like, these are all things I don't trust myself on. You can then figure out, is it valid or not? I mean, for example, say I'm really knowledgeable about cooking, which I am not. I wish I was, but it's not, I don't know, I'm just not good at it. But say I was really knowledgeable about cooking, and then somebody asked my advice about what salt they should use when they make this cake. And I know what I would use, what I would do, but I don't say that because I don't feel like I'm confident enough in my cooking, even though I know the answer, to tell the person, look at that. Is it because I didn't trust my cooking ability? And is that valid or not valid? And you'll kind of whittle things down to, okay, there's some things that obviously I didn't trust myself here and I should have. I should have just said it, or maybe I could use a disclaimer while I'm working on this self-trust thing. Like, well, it's really a matter of preference, but I prefer unsalted butter, that type of thing. And then really do some work. For me, that's a lot of meditation and things like that. Maybe you do yoga and you go to yoga with your intention on the mat every day for a month is trusting yourself, and you just kind of work with that. Or you go to work today and you say, today I'm going to trust myself, and every time I hear that language coming out of my mouth, like, well, I don't really know. When I actually do, I'm going to register that in my brain as, why am I saying that? I know the truth here. And then you can use your disclaimer. Well, maybe somebody else might do it a different way, but here's how I would do it. And slowly retrain your speech to not be supporting the belief that you can't be trusted. Just try to change it in little ways. Try to recognize it. At night, at the end of the day, take 5 minutes before you go to sleep. just thinking to yourself, what did I do today where I didn't trust myself? What happened? I can always pinpoint them. Like, I went to the store to buy olive oil, and then I didn't know if I could buy the right one, even though I bought it, consistently throughout my entire life. Somehow now I don't know. And I got overwhelmed and I bought this one, and maybe that was the wrong one. And, just all that stupid self talk about literally things that don't matter, right? I have to look to see what the dog is doing. Okay, nothing. She just got hot. So, just kind of self-analyzing those things, or maybe it's on your drive home, or maybe it's in the shower. And the shower is a really great place to do that because we are just in the shower. There's no external stuff around. And so all we have is the shower. We have a routine in the shower that's pretty automatic, what you do there. And you can kind of do it in a mindless way. And it really allows you these moments to kind of think of stuff. And maybe that's where you sort of think about what you've done or haven't done. Try to connect with people who don't trust themselves, which is probably everyone to some degree. But if you don't have somebody to talk to about that, you can always talk to this community, leave a comment, or you can DM me on Instagram or something like that, because everyone needs support. But I want you to know that regardless of what happened to you or what things that went on that trace you back, this lack of trust in self everyone has some level of this somewhere, and don't beat yourself up about it. You're just, surviving in this human world, and we do a lot of things in society that, really are uncool or we shouldn't do, like criticizing others to such a huge degree, extreme competition, we sabotaging people, all kinds of just gross things we do in society for survival that, we should really be changing that culture so we don't do it anymore. And I guess that this is what this podcast is for me. So I want to tell you that I support you in looking at yourself and what you don't trust about yourself. And if you can learn to trust yourself more, maybe we don't fully trust ourselves unless we're just really much more enlightened than I am at the moment, which, is very plausible. But just trying in little ways to trust yourself more will be really beautiful for you. And I support you in that. And I want to help you in that. And so I guess our first order of business is to start that list of things we don't trust ourselves about and see if we can, or, we're unsure about or whatnot, and see if you can trace it back to not trusting yourself. It can involve not trusting others too, because, obviously I don't trust those other people I was talking about earlier, the abusers. But what is the element of yourself that you can learn to trust? You could you're doing the best you can in any of those situations. You didn't have the tools. When somebody said they didn't like your drawing, you literally didn't know that would happen. And so you didn't have any tools to navigate that, from the smallest thing. In those moments, you literally don't have the tools to deal with them properly. So acknowledge those things. See if you can trace it back to lack of trust in self, and then start working on that change in self, changing what you say, will change how you think. If when you're saying it, you think to yourself, wait, I don't do that anymore. I don't say I don't know if I know something. I tell people what I know. Then you're already changing the patterns in your brain so that next time you'll notice it quicker and be able to then start changing your outward communication with people. And that is a really good start. We'll do more on self-trust and trust in general, but I just wanted to throw that out here now because it was sort of on my mind because I had the epiphany in my journal. Um, and let me know what you think. And know, as always, that I support you. I care about you. I love you. I want the best life for you. I know that it's possible. You know it's possible. Let's change the world by loving ourselves. So thanks so much. Take care.